SkillUpRight, please note that there is feedback that chat should be enabled. I cannot do it, so I'll just pass on the feedback to the SkillUpRight team. All right. So what we are going to talk about today, I'm going to open up my Paint application and I'll explain what we are going to talk about. All right. So let's say you have a laptop or a desktop or a virtual machine, whatever, on which you are deploying applications. And you are deploying applications using Docker, containerized application. So you have installed Docker on a machine and you are running containers, right? So you have this container, one more container, and then one more container. And each container is running an application. And because it is running an application, it also consumes some resources. So maybe this container consumes X amount of resources. This one consumes Y resources, and this container consumes, maybe Z amount of resources, right? And your Docker process itself is consuming some amount of resource. Your Docker daemon, your operating system is consuming some amount of resources. So there are so many resources being consumed by so many processes, and you always would like to have an overview of how well your system on which all these components are running, how well is it performing. Okay, so just give me a second. I got an update that I, as a host, can maybe enable chat. I don't know how to enable chats. Okay, I think I enabled chat for everyone, right? Maybe you guys can send chat messages. Okay, good. So let's use chat messages instead of the Q&A window. All right, so we have a machine on which Docker is installed and there are multiple containers running. Docker is consuming resources, your operating system is consuming resources, your containers are consuming resources. Now, how would you know how many resources are being used by various containers? How would you know that? How would you know that you need to take some action by maybe killing some containers or adding more resources to your virtual machine so that the applications continue to run without any problem? So in our past discussions, we have talked about a tool called Prometheus. Prometheus is an excellent time series database-based tool which allows you to monitor certain aspects of your systems. So in this class, we are going to talk about how do we set up Prometheus and how do we enable Prometheus to monitor the resources of an entire system which is using or which is being used as a Docker system, right? So how do we do it? How are we going to do it? First thing is we are going to set up something called as a cAdvisor. So cAdvisor is a container. cAdvisor. Now cAdvisor is a container. It's a process which can read the Docker data, file level data generated by the Docker process. So let me make an arrow here. So the cAdvisor can actually read the file level data of Docker and can parse the data and identify how many resources are used by how many components, right? And then this cAdvisor will read this data. This data is going to have information about all the containers. So this container, this container, this container, all the containers data is available here. cAdvisor consumes that data. And then when it consumes the data, it also publishes that data as a metric. It publishes the data as a set of matrices. And now when cAdvisor publishes the data as a set of matrices, we can consume those metrics in Prometheus. So then we set up another something called as Prometheus. It's also going to be a container. So we set up Prometheus. And this Prometheus actually consumes this metrics data, right? So it consumes this metrics data, and then it stores this data in a time series database. And this time series database can be consumed by Grafana. Let me choose a different color. I'm running out of colors now. So here we have Grafana, again, another container. And this Grafana is going to consume this time series database and create a visualization for you, right? It's going to create a dashboard for you. And this dashboard can be used to get a bird's eye view of what is happening on your system. So to reiterate, multiple containers running on a system occupying a lot of resources. All those resource information is available in the Docker file system. So the cAdvisor tool uses this, consumes this Docker file system, and then exposes the data as metrics. The Prometheus scrapes the metrics and parses the data and stores in time series database. And then that time series database is then utilized by Grafana to create a dashboard. Okay, this is what we are going to do. We are going to set up all these things and we'll get a good dashboard out of it. Right now, I'm doing this after a long time, so there could be errors here and there from my end. We are going to resolve them and try to get this entire stack up and running as soon as possible. So please don't judge me on this. Yeah. Okay, just give me a second. I'm just setting up the display pointers. Okay, now I'm going to connect to my virtual machine, which is here, and the username would be, I think, let's see if this works. Okay, just give me 1 second. Or maybe. Yeah, now it should work fine. Hopefully. All right, so I'm connected to my machine, and here there is no Docker, so I'm going to install Docker first. There's a request to update the font size, so I did that as well. Hopefully you guys can see font much better. And I'm going to say, maybe let's become root permanently. I'm going to say app install docker.io. All right, done. Docker is installed. If I say Docker run -d Nginx. It should run an Nginx application. Right? And I have to move this zoom toolbar all the time. So let's see if this place is okay. And if I go to this IP address, so maybe I should have run it in a different way. -D and -P. Okay, and if I open this and I say IP address :9999, Nginx is working, right? So Nginx application is running in my Docker container. Fine, perfectly fine. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to maybe start a couple of more containers. So Docker run -D -P HTTPD. So let's run an HTTPD server. Also, I will say maybe one more HTTPD server, 2 HTTPD servers, right? If I say Docker container ls, bad command, container ls. So you see there are 3 containers running, 1, 2, 3, even 4 containers, right? 4 containers are up and running, and they must be utilizing some resources. So how do we see as a dashboard what resources are being utilized by our containers, by this entire system, right? So for that, we are going to install Prometheus, we are going to install Grafana, and we are going to install cAdvisor. Now, because so many tools we have to install, why don't we create a Docker Compose file for it, and then use Docker Compose to bring everything up. So let's see if Docker Compose is installed for us. Docker Compose is not found, but we can install it like this. Yes, please. So Docker Compose is being installed. It also requires Python, so Python is also installed here. Okay, now I have a Compose file already with me. So this is a Compose file which I have. Now you see here there are 3 applications or 3 containers we are going to bring up using Docker Compose. Yeah. First is Prometheus, which is listed here, and it says that it should be based on Prometheus latest image. The container name should be Prometheus. The port should be 9090. So Prometheus runs on port 9090, and it should be exposed on, or should be published also on the application. And we should pass this config file that Prometheus.yaml should be updated. Okay, so we are going to write up Prometheus.yaml as well. And you can see we are mounting it as a volume. So we create a Prometheus.yaml, which is going to be used by the Prometheus container because we are going to mount it at this location, right? Now this container will come up just fine, but it will only come up after cAdvisor comes up, right? So because this container depends on cAdvisor. So there is another application called cAdvisor, which we are going to bring up using Docker Compose. So it's going to use this cAdvisor Docker image. Container name given will be cAdvisor. These are the ports and these are the volumes. So you see here, we are going to mount our entire system volume as rootfs. Then we are going to mount war run also into the container. So everything from war run, like all the processes running and their information will be mounted. /sys for all the system operations will be mounted, and the Docker system path also will be mounted in the cAdvisor. So cAdvisor is going to go through all these mount points and is going to parse all the data available here and create metrics out for us. It's going to store the data in a Redis server. So we are also going to bring up a Redis server, which is going to be brought up like this. Okay, so now we have to create a Prometheus.yaml. Now let's create a Prometheus.yaml, which we are going to do here. Yeah. So let's create a Prometheus config, right? So here we are going to just specify a scrape config. In this, we are going to say, well, give it the scrape job a name called cAdvisor, for example. This name can be anything. Then scrape interval, how frequently the scraping should be done, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, anything can be given. And then static config, here we are going to specify what is the target, right? So targets is cAdvisor. So we are going to monitor the cAdvisor application on port 8080, right? So if you see our Docker Compose, cAdvisor application will run on port 8080, and Prometheus, because of this configuration, it's going to scrape it at this target /matrix. All right, I'm going to save this here. So our Prometheus YAML is created. It's in the current directory. And I'm also going to save this file, this Docker Compose file, Docker Compose.yaml. Like this. So everything here, I'm going to save as well. Done. So if I print the Prometheus.yaml, this is the Prometheus configuration. If I print the Docker Compose.yaml, this is the complete Docker Compose. Okay, now we are going to say Docker Compose up, but I'm going to say up in detached mode so that it does not occupy my terminal. All right, let's see if up works fine. Let's follow the logs. Okay, images are being pulled. Let me see chat messages. It says Prometheus is not started. What does it say? Error passing YAML, line 4, static config not found. Static config not found. Okay. All right, so I'm going to stop everything and Docker Compose YAML. No, sorry, Prometheus.yaml. And it's not static config, it's static configs. Let's bring everything up again. So Redis is up, cAdvisor is up. Now let's see if our applications are running. So if I access, for example, 8080 on this machine, what do we get? So you see cAdvisor is coming up. We have cAdvisor installed. It has already read everything, and it has not passed much data. Yeah, some data it has passed, the network throughput and all. Some container information is also there. I don't know. Yeah, maybe it is still. Yeah, so you see, it is checking the CPU usage, the memory usage, and container-wise usage also it will have. Okay, so cAdvisor is installed. Now, on port 9090, we should have Prometheus if it is started properly. So yes, Prometheus is up. And if I go to status and targets, I should see cAdvisor. So cAdvisor is up and it is being scraped. And this is the endpoint that is being scraped, cAdvisor :8080/metrics. So if I go to my machine here, and if I go to cAdvisor, and at the end, if I say metrics, these are the metrics that are published by cAdvisor. And Prometheus is then consuming those metrics, right? So a lot of metrics data is now captured on Prometheus. All our system data, which is parsed by cAdvisor and then exposed as metrics, is now available in Prometheus. But then again, it's just data. We can query some data, but it's just data. Let's visualize it as well. So we are going to install Grafana. Okay. So installing Grafana is also very easy. I'll just go to Grafana container, or I will say Grafana Docker. So we'll run Grafana also as a Docker image, just like this. Grafana. Alpine image is recommended, right? This is Alpine image. Okay. Open OSS. Like this. Grafana runs on port 3000. Okay. Now this time I need to get my terminal back, so I'm going to stop this. And I bring up my application stack with -d option. All right, all the applications are up. And now I also run a Docker container, which is Grafana. So Docker run -d-p, Grafana OSS. Hopefully this works. And when this is done, port 3000 should give Grafana to us. I will share the YAML files later. Don't worry about it. Okay, and then let's try to access Grafana here. 3000. All right, Grafana is in. We don't want to change password. Let's see. Default password is admin, I guess. Yeah, we don't want to change password. So default password is admin. You can use that, and that's fine. And now we are going to connect to this Prometheus. Okay. So we have talked about this before. We have seen how we add a data source. So I'm going to go to configuration, go to data sources, and add a data source. There is Prometheus. All right. So I'm going to add that. Click on that. For some reason, I don't get Prometheus. Yeah, okay. And here I'm going to say yes, localhost 9090. That's where my Prometheus application is running, and nothing else is required. I'll just save and test. Validation error URL. Okay. Just basically have to put everything. 9090. Save and test. Test data source is updated. Error reading, connection refused. Host 1990. Just give me a second. Should have worked. Maybe give just complete URL. Yeah, like this, it is working, so it's fine. So now we have our data source already added, which is Prometheus. So we have added Prometheus data source. Okay, now we are going to visualize our data. Okay. So let's create a dashboard now, right? We want to create a new dashboard. Okay, we can also browse dashboards. So maybe let's search for cAdvisor. Okay, maybe not here. Nobody has created. Okay, so let's go to dashboard and create new dashboard. Right. Also, we can import a dashboard. Right. Let's import a dashboard. So, well, we can create a dashboard. You can create all the bar charts and line graphs and pie charts to see, visualize the data, which is being parsed from the cAdvisor. But why to reinvent the wheel? Maybe somebody else has already done this work. So I can look for existing Grafana dashboards, for example. You can see Grafana publishes dashboards also. So you can create dashboard and share with other users. So a lot of dashboards are already created by many people. If I look for cAdvisor, so we can get a lot of dashboards, right? So maybe there is this one, Docker and system monitoring, Docker container and host metrics. Which one shall we take? cAdvisor exporter. There is this one, which looks nice, I guess. Let's see. No, it is mostly textual. Where did it go? Yeah, maybe this one. Yeah. So I'm going to copy the ID of this dashboard, and then I'll say import a dashboard in Grafana, and I'll give the ID, and I say load. So I want to use this dashboard, which somebody else has created, but I want to use it in my system to visualize my data. And I say import the dashboard. It's fetching the dashboard details, and pretty soon you get the complete data. Let's see if some data is missing or something. So it says 7 containers are running. Uptime is still not calculated yet. Memory, maybe the data is incorrect because I see memory utilized is here. Yeah, maybe some formulas are incorrect here. That's why it's showing NA. But you can see here, these are the containers that are running, and these are the resource utilizations that is happening for each of the containers. So Prometheus utilizes 5% of memory. And here you see Prometheus utilizes 60 MB of memory. Determine Jennings, I don't know which container it is. Maybe it is Grafana itself. It is utilizing 102 MB of memory. So now here is a dashboard which can give you complete data about your system utilization. So you can see here network traffic. So you can maybe zoom in and you can see how the network traffic has been going on for an application, right? So this cAdvisor has been consuming a lot of traffic, 7.5 KB per second. The blue one, which is Prometheus, it is also working a lot on the network. But then there is CPU utilization, right? So these numbers are not coming properly because I think the data source is not correct in this dashboard. But here you see, yeah, complete information about your system. And if you let it run for one day, you will see that you can in detail see, how the system has been behaving for a long time. So here you can see CPU utilization per container. Yeah, so which container has been utilizing how much of CPU. Yeah, so that's all I wanted to discuss with you today. So let me recap. Let's go to Paint here. So the problem is that we have a system on which various Docker containers are running, and you want to monitor the system to ensure that nothing untoward is happening. You have enough resources to sustain your applications. So the black ones are the containers that are running in Docker. So yeah, all these are containers that are running in Docker, and you want to monitor the resource utilization. So what you do is you actually mount the Docker information or the Docker file system and the operating system file system to cAdvisor. So you feed the information to cAdvisor, which will consume the data, the raw data, and create metrics. Okay, this metrics can be consumed by Prometheus and stored in a database. And then Grafana will point Grafana to this Prometheus database so that we can visualize the data in the dashboard, and we get something like this. Where did it go? Something like this dashboard. Yeah, so this was the end goal for today. Now I open the floor for questions. We have 15 minutes for questions. So, yep. Okay, there's a question. Okay, any questions? There are a lot of questions here, but please ping the questions again because I don't know how much I will have to scroll. If you need visual data of particular time period, can we get it? Yes, so you can zoom in like this. If you need between this and this, you can do like this and you can get. You can also do some queries, right? So yeah, something like that. cAdvisor can also pull up the data and fetch the metrics. So why do we need Prometheus? So your statement is wrong. cAdvisor cannot fetch the metrics. It produces the metrics. Prometheus will fetch the metrics and then populate time series database. If you need visual data, okay, this is answered. Recording, yeah, it is being recorded. Hopefully. Yeah, it is being recorded. If downloading visualization data is available, I am not sure about this. How you can download, but what's the format you want to download? That really needs to be discussed. Is there a difference in Docker Compose and Docker Network? Yeah, Docker Compose is how you deploy multiple applications using a single command. Docker Network is how containers talk to each other. So both are unrelated. Sudo pip3 install Docker Compose. You can install Docker Compose via pip also, but that means you need to have Python and pip installed, or you can install via apt install Docker Compose as well. Why did we install Redis? Okay, before we go into details, I'm going to share these files with you. So I'll say Docker compose.yaml. So here is the Docker Compose YAML. And okay, my system is not working. Let's connect again, I guess. Okay, this is Prometheus.yaml. Okay, so both files are with you. And also, maybe you are interested in how we run Grafana. So we use this command. And this is how you install Grafana. Okay, questions. Without cAdvisor also can we integrate Prometheus and Grafana? Yep, Prometheus and Grafana can be integrated. cAdvisor is to capture data of a machine where Docker is running. What is Docker? Docker is a way to run containerized or to build and deploy containerized applications. Yeah, that's a question that requires at least 15-20 minutes to answer. So maybe you watch previous recordings to understand what is Docker. Here, I'll not be able to justice to that question. Why so? It is most of them used instead of other containers. I don't understand what is the question here. So Arun, please repeat the question. Since we are capturing container metrics, what if the node is down? If the node is down, then it is down. So you cannot capture the data. So you need to monitor node, and then in Prometheus you will see that the node is down or the data source is down, and then you can set up alerting accordingly. So Docker Compose install applications image on a container multi-containers at the same time. That's correct, yes. Data is showing per container or is it showing consolidated data? It is per container data. As you can see, there are different data points for different containers. Can we see containers and look at the data flow between them? So this is not for data flow. You need traceability. For that, traces. This dashboard is only for resource utilization. Why there are so many steps? cAdvisor, Prometheus, and Grafana. It should be simplified. There is an advantage for having so many steps is that you can replace one of the steps with something else. So for example, you are using cAdvisor today, but tomorrow a better tool comes in, then you use that. You don't have to then redesign Prometheus and Grafana separately. If you don't like Grafana, maybe you use something else and visualize there. So you have these building blocks which you can easily swap out and swap in. Is apart from cAdvisor, is there anything that can be used for the same purpose? There is node exporter which you can use, but that's mostly on the operating system level resources. But I really have to look up if any real alternative we have to find out. How many containers can be in Docker? Any limit for the size of metrics in cAdvisor? No limits. It's only dependent on how much resources you have in your system. From where can we find the old recordings? Please reach out to SkillUpRight. They will help you out. What's the use of Redis for Prometheus? Oh yeah, I forgot to answer. So Redis is not for Prometheus. Redis is for cAdvisor. cAdvisor is going to parse the data and store it in Redis. So that's all. What's the difference between Node Exporter and cAdvisor? cAdvisor is for containers, monitoring the resource utilization of containers. Node Exporter is only for node related resource utilization. Can we monitor Kubernetes cluster with similar manner? Yes. In fact, for example, if you look for the dashboards, you have Kubernetes cluster monitoring, for example. So, yeah. So when you run Kubernetes, you can deploy Prometheus in Kubernetes itself. You see here, Kubernetes itself. And then you actually can use this Prometheus config. And that's all. That's all. That will enable you to access everything. Is Redis a database? Yes, it is a database. What are the prerequisite software needs to be installed to work in our local machine? I showed all the things that you need to install. You just need Docker and Docker Compose. ELK can be alternative for cAdvisor. No, ELK is for big data storage. cAdvisor is required for Kubernetes. Yes, I think so. Okay, so now I think we have reached a position that we have answered all the questions. There are many other requests coming in, like discussion on Elasticsearch and Grafana and Kubernetes and things like that. Maybe we can cover them later. And yeah, maybe we'll have a separate session for ELK as well. So with this, I'll close the session now. The recordings will be shared by SkillUpRight team. The files, these YAML files, I have already shared with you. So you should be able to use them. And the commands also I've shared, right? So should be easy. Yeah. You watch the videos later. I have shared the files in the chat. If you scroll up, so for example, I'll share it again. So this is the Docker Compose YAML. And this is the Prometheus YAML coming your way. Oh, I'm sorry. That's my bad. So this is the Prometheus YAML. I was sending to selected participants only. My bad. Just give me a second. I'll give everything. Can you see it now? The files? So please copy them and put them in your system. And recording will be shared with you by SkillUpRight. Okay. So with this, thank you. Thank you for your time. And tomorrow also we have a session. So we are going to meet then. And see you again. Thank you. Bye-bye.